Greetings. The What It Takes Radio Company is proud to present from Prescott, Arizona, Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook from the Sharlot Hall Museum.
Welcome to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. My special guests today are Duane Steinbrink and Bob Wood. They are two of four members of Rusty Pistols Reloaded, and we're here to talk about cowboy music, Prescott, Arizona, growing up loving the Western way of life, and the upcoming Arizona Cowboy Gathering here in Prescott, Arizona in early August. Welcome to the show, guys.
Well, thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
It's a real honor to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here, and we might even have a chance to have you pull out your guitars in one of our later segments here. But wanted to talk to both of you a little bit about how you fell in love with Western music, cowboy poetry. And Duane, why don't I start with you real quickly? And I think you were mentioning to me a little bit earlier that you've been part of the gathering for about 15 years?
Yeah, I've been part of the gathering. I joined in 2010 after I retired, and I've just loved it ever since. And of course, I've always loved the cowboy way of life. And even though I grew up on a farm or in a farming community, cowboy poet, cowboy music, it's all been a part of my life.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. Where did you grow up in the farm life? Where were you?
Actually, I grew up in southern Minnesota, and a small farming community of about 650 people. And you moved out here actually in 1972, and fell in love with Arizona, and I've been here ever since.
Right.
Raised my family here, and I plan to stay here.
Have you been in Prescott most of the time, Duane?
I have been in Prescott most of the time.
All right. So you did find a place in Arizona with four seasons, but not the depth of snow or cold of the southern tier of Minnesota.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I moved out here to begin with was I was stranded in a snowstorm for about 3 days, and I said, "That's it. I'm out of here."
I think that would change anybody's course of life.
It really did. And I did miss the lakes and the green, but
Right.
Arizona has so much more to offer.
Right.
With the open space, you can go camping, you can ride horses just about anywhere.
Right.
It's just perfect.
Just don't have the walleye fish fries like you did back there.
Well, no, you get more cod.
Bob, how about yourself?
Well, I moved to Prescott at the year 2000, end of June, 25 years ago. I come from Southern California, and I'm like Duane, I really enjoy the Western lifestyle. When we visited here and I was downtown at the square, I realized that this was a place that I needed to move to. I was trying to get out of the mess in California as it was, and this was a great opportunity to bring my children in a beautiful environment. And I've always enjoyed the Western lifestyle. I've had horses for 40 years. I don't have any anymore, but my grandfather was a cattle rancher in the Tehachapi Mountains, south of Bakersfield. So we spent a lot of time on Grandpa's ranch. And my dad and all of our uncles, on the roundups and the brandings and all the different things that go on with that. So we spent a lot of time at the ranch.
That's great cowboy country up there in the Southern Sierras and Tehachapi.
It's beautiful country.
Did you ever go to I remember going once with our family to the Old Timers Rodeo in Tehachapi. We went up to see Casey Tibbs.
No, I never was able to go to that. Didn't realize it was on there.
Yeah, we didn't go up. I think we only went once. But so tell me, where in Southern California did you grow up? Because I grew up in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay, I was in Riverside.
All right.
And of course, that was 1953, the year I was born, and as I grew up in Riverside, back in those days, everybody had a chicken in their backyard. They had vegetable gardens that was loaded with citrus there in the Riverside area.
Oh, yeah.
Redlands, Loma Linda, San Bernardino partially.
Pomona.
Yeah, Pomona. It was very heavy agriculture.
Right.
So I escaped.
US 60 and Route 66 came together out there.
Yes, yes. And but that's where I was born.
And you could
raised.
have horses out there. You couldn't have horses really in North Hollywood, but you could have horses out there in Riverside County.
Yes. In fact, I lived up above Redlands, which is just a few miles out of Riverside, in a 10-acre old farmhouse. And I boarded horses and had some of my own horses. And it was more of just a hobby, because I still had a job full-time down in Riverside. So it was a hobby, and it was a good hobby, and it really got me into understanding horses better.
Right.
And I really learned from some really nice people up there that had horses and mules and such. And it was really an educational time for me. I had some really good friends that were vets, large animal vets, and they would spend time because they enjoyed riding their horses so much. So I interacted with them quite a bit.
That sounds like a great childhood. Dwayne, did you have horses out there in Minnesota?
I did not. Farming community, they didn't use a lot of horses.
Right.
Even though I worked, all summer long for a lot of the farmers baling hay or slopping, hog pens or whatever it was.
Right.
But I didn't really get into the horse business until Mr. Jim Buchanan introduced me to horses in about 1982.
How about that? I like that. Well, Yavapai County is famous for its horses.
Yeah. And
this is great horse country here.
We had horses, my kids grew up with horses, and we had them until about 5 years ago, and we finally got out of the horse business.
Well,
miss them dearly.
There's a lot of lessons kids learn growing up with horses.
Yep.
And so, real quick here before we take a break and thank our sponsors, did you guys grow up? Were you who influenced your interest in music? Was it through television or radio? Was it with Roy Rogers and Gene Autry? The Rawhide era. You guys grew up in an era of some pretty good, when cowboys were king on television and the radio.
Yeah, we always listened to Dale Evans and Roy Rogers. And, I started playing guitar. I started begging my parents for a guitar when I was 4 years old, and finally when I was 8, they finally got me a guitar, and I started to take some guitar lessons.
I love it.
Yeah.
Bob?
Well, yeah, I bought a guitar in 1976, and I left it in the case. I didn't do much with it. I picked up the harmonica and did the harmonica for a long, long time. But one of my main influences into the Western music and cowboy music was our old buddy Jimmy Dunham.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
We played with Jimmy for 10, 15 years or so, and we never did hear all the songs that he had in his head.
How about that?
Years we played with him, and all of a sudden he'd come up with one, and we said, where'd that one come from? He was an encyclopedia of Western music in his head.
Yeah, and he's the one who started the Rusty Pistols cowboy band, and he passed in 2017.
Yep.
And his sister joined us at that point, and we had to change the name to Rusty Pistols Reloaded.
Got it. Well, we're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back and hear more about Rusty Pistols Reloaded and our favorites in Western and country music.
Right.
Thanks, Duane and Bob and Stuart. We're off to a great program, so please stay with us. But we have some important news from the Sharlot Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. Stuart says, hey, did you know our very own Sharlot Hall Museum is now an officially accredited arboretum? That's right, a museum. The museum has been awarded Level 1 accreditation by ArbNet and the Morton Arboretum, joining a prestigious global network of arboreta, horticulturalists, and volunteers. The museum boasts trees, shrubs, and perennials that are native to the region. But here's something else, as well as historical plantings with stories to tell. Some even trace back to Sharlot Hall herself, like the 2 apple trees and a grand London plane tree. This is a fun thing as well as a good thing. So learn more about this incredible recognition and the stories rooted in our history right here at the museum by visiting charlottehallmuseum.org. Once again, charlottehallmuseum.org. You see, Sharlot Hall Museum is where community, culture, and history meet.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum. And my special guests today are Duane Steinbrink and Bob Wood of Rusty Pistols Reloaded. And we're talking about cowboy music, cowboy poetry, the traditions of the West, and how we all fell in love with Western music. And, I think that we can all look back, and there's certain times in our lives where we listen to certain music, or our parents had music on the radio, or maybe a few records around the house. And, I know that my dad was a great influence on that. And the radio dial rarely left KLAC, but he was also, he made sure that I grew up listening to some of the old cowboy music from, Marty Robbins as well, of course, who was a great champion of old-time Western music. And we were talking about Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, of course, were so popular. But then later on, you get introduced to more music and poetry like Badger Clark and Curly Fletcher, and whether it's music you're hearing from around the campfire, right, or on the radio, or your mom or dad saying, "Hey, you should hear this music." And Bob, I'm going to look to you. Did your parents like old Western music or country music?
And especially some of the big band era and some of the groups that used to play a lot of the Western music. My mom and dad had, I don't remember how many vinyl records that they used to listen to.
Were they Bob Wills fans?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Yeah. Probably more Sons of the Pioneers.
Oh, well, yeah.
Sure.
That's one of the most popular groups,
right?
Yeah.
In the ages. Bob Wills was very good for Texas swing,
right?
And he still has a great following,
right? How about you, Duane? Do you remember growing up in Minnesota? Was there music in the house, or?
Oh, there was music in the house, and
right,
most of the time it was the kids playing their phonograph. Most of the time, on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, my dad was always watching boxing or something like that. But yeah, we've always had listened to music, but it was mostly through the phonograph.
So when you picked up the guitar, where did your interest lead to in that era? It's probably right in the mid '60s, I would think, like early '70s.
Actually, it was when I picked up the guitar. It would have been 1960. Yeah. And I started playing, Get Along, Susie, and...
Oh, the Everly Brothers?
I don't know who wrote it. But,
Rick Nelson.
Ricky Nelson. Whatever I could do with 3 chords is what I was playing.
Right.
And I had a teacher for 6 months and learned a lot of stuff from her, and was going to continue getting guitar lessons, but then her home burned down, and
oh no!
Yeah, I guess maybe that's how I became a fireman. I don't know, but anyway, and then I didn't take another lesson until I was about 16 years old, and I went back and got another 6 months, and been playing ever since.
All right. So if we were going to come out and hear you guys play here locally, what are some of the artists that inspire you today? When Rusty Pistols Reloaded, plays here in Prescott at either the Gathering or down at the Western Heritage Center, or one of the many venues that you play at.
Well, a lot of them actually.
Yeah.
I see a Junior Bonner poster behind you. Rod Hart. We used to follow Rod Hart. when the old wagon wheel was on Highway 69.
I remember the wagon wheel.
Yeah, we'd go out there and we'd do dancing, or down at the Palace or Matt's Saloon, but today I think we love Dave Stamey, one of the up and coming, and he's been the Western Music Association Entertainer of the Year probably about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
We just play a lot of variety.
A wide variety. And our lead singer, Susie Kilman, that lives in Wickenburg, she has written a bunch of really nice songs.
Right.
And so we do a lot of her songs as well. But we do a little bit of Dave Stamey, and it's like he said, Arizona Morning, and a lot of different varieties of people that have written it. Don Edwards, of course.
Cattle Call by Don Edwards is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, he was the ultimate troubadour,
right?
As he would say, he was a troubadour. And he's just incredible, just incredible.
Yeah, we used to bring him to the gathering, probably, it seemed like every other year. And there, pretty soon it got to be Sons of San Joaquin, or, different groups. What was the name of the group that?
Desert Sons.
Desert Sons. And I tell you what, they started when the gathering started here at Sharlot Hall, and Desert Sons did their last performance about 7 years ago, I believe.
Yeah.
And the band split up, and Buck, he passed away.
Buck passed, yes.
But yeah, they were here every year. So.
Well, I know that there was one album that my father brought home, and he just played it over and over and over. And I think now that he's become such a legend, we overlook that Willie Nelson is such a great songwriter, and
right.
kind of walking the same walk as Chris Christopherson, but
exactly.
Truly a troubadour on parade. He cannot live without playing. And his Red-Headed Stranger album, to this day, I think was a really influential album from that era. It kept a certain style of songwriting, Western music, but popular, kind of followed in the footsteps of a lot of musicians before him that had some, that they told a story through their lyrics.
Yes.
Well, our lead singer, Susie Kilman, who lives on the Hacienda River Ranch, about 9 miles out of Dirt Road, and but when she sings a Patsy Cline song,
oh yeah,
she just nails it every time, and we love her to do it. It's not always country, or not always cowboy, but I think the audience loves to hear that song.
Oh, for sure.
All those songs.
Oh, for sure. And there's 4 of you in the band, right? There's 3 guitars and a stand-up bass.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And who plays the stand-up bass?
Don Pease.
That's right. That's right.
And he lives in Rimrock.
Okay. That's right. And you, Bob, play the harmonica along with the guitar?
Yes.
Right.
And I do some lead vocals. And it's like I say, I bought a guitar in 1976, I think it was, and I left it in the case and picked up the harmonica. And I had friends on board ship that were very good guitar players, and that I should have stayed with the guitar, but I played harmonica with them and did a lot of blues harmonica and things like that with them. And
Are you saying that you were in the Navy?
How
about that?
Yeah, 1972 to 76.
All right. Well, I guess on some of those long passages, having a harmonica with you could.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with it, and then we've been together now 15 years almost. And my wife and I were married in 2010, and 2 or 3 years before that, I bought a guitar, another one, and started picking around with Jimmy Dunham. And he's really the one that got me started back or into playing a guitar. And the first song that I ever sang in front of people was at my wife and our wedding. And it was the Don Williams song, Lay Down Beside Me.
Oh, beautiful.
And that was the first song that I ever sang in front of people. Duane was there, and I was pretty nervous, I'll put it that way.
Oh, he did great. He did great. Yeah.
Well, that's a name out of the past, Don Williams. And, it's just, there isn't enough radio play anymore where you can just hear I think, the men and women who influenced all of our passion for this kind of music, storytelling and country and Western music.
Yeah.
And,
well, we both listen to a lot of Spotify. And we can dial in who we really want to listen to. And Don Williams is one of the many that we listen to quite often.
Well, we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back, and then maybe in the next segment or the one after, we're going to have you guys pull out your guitars here and do a little picking on the show. All right? We'll be right back.
This is Stan once again for the good folks at the Sharlot Hall Museum and for Arizona Roundup. Recently I just saw on television that the rather well-known comedian and commentator Greg Gutfeld was going to be in, and he mispronounced it. He said he was going to be in Prescott, Arizona. Well, I'm glad he's coming. And again, Prescott is a really wonderful historical place and a good place for a name, talent, and a broadcast star to come to. And of course, what we will do is we will thank him for coming, but we may remind him that, of course, we call it Prescott. There may be a lot of Prescott towns around, but there's only one Prescott, and it is a unique town, and it's our hometown, and we are hoping that you'll come and visit us and take advantage of all of the great services and great businesses that are here, and as well, come and visit the Sharlot Hall Museum and the other places of Western history located in Prescott. It is the mile-high cowboy city, and of course, everybody's favorite hometown.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum, and my special guests today are from Rusty Pistols Reloaded, Duane and Bob, and we're having a great conversation today about cowboy poetry, Western music, growing up in rural California and Minnesota, and life here in Prescott the last 25 to 35 years, and the changes we've seen, but also how we're keeping that Western heritage alive. And we were just talking off the show just for a few minutes about Junior Bonner. It was filmed in 1971, and Rod Hart, of course, who his wonderful music in the film Arizona Morning and Rodeo Man, and captured a certain type of music that to me is I have a friend, Mark Stewart of the Bastard Sons of Johnny Cash. I don't know if you've heard any of his music, but he calls it Cali, Texas. Or it's a. But if you've grown up or listened to music out here in the Southwest, I think our music in Arizona, Southern California, New Mexico, West Texas, there's a flavor to the music that's different than what comes out of Nashville, or and has that influence that we grew up with Buck Owens and Glenn Campbell, of course, the Western music for California, and the cowboy poetry, and people like, again, Badger Clark and Curly Fletcher, cowboy poets who were inspired by the landscape of the Southwest and brought their passion to it. And then we were also talking about Don Edwards and his great music from Texas. And so I thought we'd talk a little bit about how that's celebrated here every year, going in with 37 years?
37 years.
And it's the Cowboy Gathering here in Prescott. Yep. It's going to be, is it August
7th,
8th, and 9th? So that's the first long weekend of August.
Right.
And how many people come to town for the Cowboy Gathering each year?
Well, it depends who we have, but most of the time, I would guess we have a lot of sellout crowds.
Oh, yeah.
Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. I would guess there's probably, what would you think?
Well, just coming to the college, we have 4,000 to 5,000 people.
That's a lot of people.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that come through for the 3 days that we are, doing night shows and doing daytime sessions as well. but it draws a lot of folks from all over the country.
Right.
Yeah.
And local people like Gail Steiger still really involved with the gathering, and so there's a real core though of men and women here in Prescott, Yavapai County, who help put on. You know, Jim Buchanan was on our show here a few weeks ago.
Yeah, he's the chairman.
And you have a strong group of men and women who help put this event on every year. Isn't that right?
I think we have about 80 people that are signed up for the Arizona Cowboy Poets Gathering that are members, and we meet monthly. Bob and I sit on the selection committee, so we help select who's going to be here in August. We start that process in September. So we have already picked who's going to be on the night show in a year from August.
Yeah, 2026.
Yeah. And but we have about 350 people apply every year to be here.
Is that right?
We have to narrow that down to about 40 to 45.
That's really difficult.
It is, and I'll tell you, it's one of the best cowboy poet gatherings in the nation, and that's not us talking about it. It's everybody who comes.
Oh yeah,
and sees it. I think we're pretty blessed. It takes us about what do you think? About 5 months to actually narrow everything down and get the right people here.
Coordinate them with their schedules, their routes.
Sure, exactly.
I think my friend Jim Jones, who I know from Western Writers of America, is coming this year.
Yes, he is. Yeah, he'll be here, and they put on a great show.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Yep.
Now, what's interesting is that it's kind of the gathering. It's like the rodeo. The rodeo comes to town, and the gathering comes to town. Now, all the music doesn't take place just at the college, right? You have music happening, the music workshops. It's kind of there's a lot going on for those 3 days, aren't there?
There is. We go out to a lot of the nursing homes.
Okay.
And we'll send. I think last I heard we had 17 nursing homes this year that we will be. Send some of the entertainers or poets to these nursing homes and give them a free show. It's just we've been going to the Pioneers Home for quite a few years.
Yeah, quite a few years.
And
that's a really big deal.
It is.
Do you go out to the VA as well?
Yeah.
Well, we do. We send people to the VA, and a lot of these other nursing homes, and they can't wait till Arizona Cowboy Poets come to town.
Yeah, in fact, we've also do some of the nursing homes after the gathering is over. We've been doing some in the last few months. And Duane and I are also in with the 4th grade poetry program.
Oh, how about that?
That we go to. This year we were at 7 schools, I believe it was, and 18, I think it was, 4th grade classes.
Yeah.
And we talk to them about cowboy poetry. We play some cowboy music and try to inspire them to write a cowboy poem. And a couple weeks ago, we just sat down and read 220 some poems that the kid has. And a lot of the kids get really inspired. But we're also part of that. That we do.
I love that. I was going to ask you about that because years ago we were on a vacation in the high country of Appalachia, Virginia, and we got invited down to a open house at a school, and they said, "You got to come down and hear it. We got the next generation of yodelers here tonight, and she's being taught by the last yodeler of our county." And this was way up in Warm Springs, Virginia, and that has to be important, though, to try to inspire the next generation, to get the next young people singing and writing poetry and picking up the guitar.
Yeah, and Don and Kyra Pease, who is our bass player, is the ones that have developed this program.
That's really wonderful.
They have changed this program around. She creates booklets of all the poems, and if you're a winner, the first, second, and third place winner, which they're co-champions, get to be on the stage Saturday night
I like that.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great program. They've done an outstanding job.
They really have.
Yeah.
So some of these fourth graders end up on the stage?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, and
Wow.
reciting their poem, and they memorize them.
That's fantastic.
It is.
Now, have you seen younger generations coming into the show each year, men and women in their teens and 20s? Because I follow a lot of Western music on a lot of people use social media like Instagram and Facebook to promote themselves, but I see a lot of young people coming out of the Americana and Western music from across the country that are on tour. I mean, men and women who are 17 to 30 years old out there touring. So you see a promise of the future in Western music and cowboy poetry?
Oh, I think so.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We have Ashley Westcott. We were just talking about her yesterday. She lives in the Sharlot area.
Right.
And we invite her and her friend every year. And we have a lot of young poets, too, young kids that just really do an excellent job. But one of the other big things about the Arizona Cowboy Poets Gathering is it is a absolute family-friendly environment.
I love that.
And you see a lot of people that are in the hallways coming in or during intermission, the families. These are ranching families. And they're intermingling and talking, and it's every year just before the gathering starts, we go to the Marina Room at the Hacienda, and we have our own little mini gathering of all the performers and volunteers. We get to go in and see each other. And it's one of the things I told Jim Buchanan many years ago. I said, this night, this Thursday afternoon, is what we have worked all year round for. Because all the performers are there, and we get to go see them like a family again. And it's really cool. It's really neat.
And to end the gathering, after Saturday night, and we tear everything down from the stage, and next morning, Sunday morning, we go to Jim Buchanan's place, and the Central Arizona
Backcountry
Horsemen provide a breakfast. And all the entertainers and some of the children, some of the poets show up. And I think last year we fed 190 people.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
So
that's
fantastic.
It's still a family gathering.
Yes, it is.
I love it. Well, we're going to take a break here and thank our sponsors. And I think I'm going to try to get Bob and Duane to pick up their guitars. And I'm going to pick up a book of Sharlot Hall's poetry. And we're going to talk a little bit about Sharlot Hall. And I think we need to talk about her and her place in cowboy poetry, because I think she gets overlooked.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back.
This is Stan once again for the good folks at the Sharlot Hall Museum and for Arizona Roundup. Recently I just saw on television that the rather well-known comedian and commentator Greg Gutfeld was going to be in, and he mispronounced it. He said he was going to be in Prescott, Arizona. Well, I'm glad he's coming. And again, Prescott is a really wonderful historical place and a good place for a name, talent, and a broadcast star to come to. And of course, what we will do is we will thank him for coming, but we may remind him that, of course, we call it Prescott. There may be a lot of Prescott towns around, but there's only one Prescott, and it is a unique town, and it's our hometown, and we are hoping that you'll come and visit us and take advantage of all of the great services and great businesses that are here. And as well, come and visit the Sharlot Hall Museum and the other places of Western history located in Prescott. It is the mile-high cowboy city, and of course, everybody's favorite hometown.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Sharlot Hall Museum, and my special guests today are from Rusty Pistols Reloaded, Duane Steinbrink and Bob Wood, and we're having a great time here today talking about cowboy poetry, Western music, and we've got a great treat here. Duane and Bob, you were just telling me a little bit about the song you guys are going to share with us today on Arizona Roundup. Duane, tell us a little bit about this song. And
Well, the name of the song is Colorado Trail. It was actually prior to 1927, but they actually don't know the actual date that it came out. I would guess is in the 1860s, 1870s. But actually, Carl Sandburg actually heard the song, loved it, and he's the one who kind of put it together and actually put it in the first book. And that's a song what we love to do. When we go to the fourth grade classes, it's one of the songs that we do for them, because we're trying to teach them how to do some cowboy poetry, and Colorado Trail is part of it. And you're ready to try it?
Oh, yeah. And the Colorado Trail is what we call a cow herding song, where the night riders, as they would ride around the herd at night, would whistle, maybe the harmonica, hum an old song their granddaddy taught them.
Yeah, probably they're not playing guitar.
No,
or
or a banjo.
Yeah,
no,
or a banjo. Yeah.
And they did that in order to settle the herds, because the last thing any of them wanted was a stampede, especially at night. So as they rode around the herds, they would whistle and such, and it would calm the herd, and the herd always knew where they were at, so the herd would not spook. And that's one of the reasons. This is one of the cattle herding songs.
all right.
And
Wonderful.
this song is more about leaving northwest Oklahoma, pushing them into Colorado. Now, that is not the normal Colorado Trail, but this song is all about that trail.
All right. Wonderful.
Ride all the lonely night, ride through the day, keep the herd moving on its way. Weep, all ye little rains, wail, winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail. Eyes like the morning stars, cheeks like a rose. Laura is the prettiest girl God Almighty knows. Weep, all ye little rains, wail, winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail. stormy night, dark is the sky. Wish I'd stayed in Abilene, so nice and warm and dry. We bore ye little rings, wail, winds wail, all along, along, along the Colorado Trail. All along, along, along the Colorado Trail.
Wow. That is just tremendous. Take you back in time right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just, what a beautiful song.
It is a beautiful song.
And really right out of the grand tradition of have Carl Sandburg connected to it. The
Yep.
fact that it's a song that came right out of the prairie and, you know, and still being part of our life today.
Yes.
It's,
Well, you know, the backbone of Prescott, and my limited knowledge, I've only been here 25 years, but is the ranching community. One of the things that Dawn, during our fourth grade program, says there's about 800,000 cattle in the state of Arizona. So we have a lot of ranches, we have a lot of cowboys, cowgirls, and such that are still ranching and farming and taking care of that kind of.
And in Arizona, you pretty much have to do it horseback.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
right.
You know, it's not the four-wheelers anymore, the razors or anything. It's if you're going to go do it horseback.
Yeah. And I've been on horseback in a lot of this country here in Yavapai
Yes.
County, and it is up and down and rocky.
It
and
is.
More canyons than you can
Yep.
count. And, you know, what I loved about that song is it really reminded me of the community that comes together after a hard day's work
Yes.
in ranching, or, you know, that goes back to those drovers and those young cowboys out there, you know, on the gather, or if they're on a drive, and that you have that pause that continues to today to come around the campfire, share the good, the orchids and onions of the day, what's good, the work that's ahead of you tomorrow,
Right.
and then be able to share stories and poetry and song. And I think that's what a tradition that has been brought over
Yeah.
hundreds of years ago and has continued to today.
Yeah.
And that song really reminded me of a
And I
great song to hear
I think
around the
that's-
campfire.
I also think that's how rodeos got started. It was like gatherings.
Right.
You know, it's ranches against ranches and cowboy against cowboy, and it was all because they brought them into a gathering.
Right, right. And so when you guys go to do find inspiration for music or cowboy poetry, is there any of the classic cowboy poets that you guys look? I mean, this one is, I don't think I've heard this one before. I just loved it. And, you know,
it's really a pretty song, and you know, some of the folks that we know have written such good music, and Gail Steiger.
Yeah.
Now I've been listening to his stuff again. You know,
Yeah.
he's just great.
Yeah.
Jay Parson.
Well, Jay Parsons, Jay Snyder is a poet laureate out of Oklahoma. We've been bringing him here quite often, and he's just fantastic. Chris Isaacs,
Chris Isaacs.
you know.
oh,
one
yeah.
of the best
Yeah.
there is. He's great.
Yeah, and funny.
Well, and you know, they've lived all of these experiences. You know, Jay Parson, Jay Snyder, Chris Isaac. These people are sure enough cowboys,
Right.
and be able to verbalize, put it in poetry, put it into a song. To be able to do that takes a special quality
Sure.
and talent to be
Right.
able to do that.
Ian Tyson.
Yes, Ian Tyson. Yes.
Yeah.
But I was, many years ago, I was camping up in the forest with Joe and Carlene, friends of ours. And I played Wind in the Wire.
Right.
And Carlene looked at me and she said, Ian Tyson. And I said, he did that song too?
And he did. It was Randy Travis.
Yes, Randy Travis, yeah.
And we do some of that newer stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you all coming in today. This has been wonderful. I hope that we'll have you back in. We've got plenty of time before the gathering, and
Sure.
we get a lot of people around this table. I'd like to have you back. And so, Duane and Bob, thank you so much for coming in today. Rusty Pistols Reloaded. At least half the team here today. Maybe we can get all of you in here.
We'd love
You're
to.
such a treasure. What you do here for Prescott, for our community, and I'm so glad to get to know you both and have you bring in your talent here and share your music with us here at Sharlot Hall. And we want to do everything we can to help promote what you all do here to make our community great and keep our West alive.
We appreciate it, Stuart.
Oh, 100%. Thank you, sir.
We'll be back anytime.
All right.
Anytime.
Great. We'll be back next week on Arizona Roundup, and we look forward to having you all back very soon.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that's a wrap, folks, and thank you so very much. Thank you to Duane and Bob and the songsters, and of course to Stuart, who helps make it possible. But we also want to share our thanks with the great staff at the Sharlot Hall Museum that not only make the museum possible, but many of them are right there with Stuart and the rest of the team as we put this program together. And for them, we want to say thank you. And we are grateful for all you do, not only at the museum, but as kind of the technical volunteers and helpers to put this program together. So, hey, hopefully you'll join us next week. Remember, do good work, do good things, ride tall, be safe, particularly on this weekend, and may things go well for you. And remember, you all come back, you hear. Till next time, bye for now.